stable. I feel able to turn the tables. I could do this, just keep moving, keep your hands up, stupid. I feel lucid, a new viewing. I can see the end, I can see my future, I can view it. It's right there for the taking. Everything I've ever wanted, dreams are just waiting. I just gotta fight for it, willing to die for it, willing to like sort of.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to The Drunken Turkey Show, your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
You guys know what to do. Just like every other podcast, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. I'm Daniel. This is the DT Show. Get ready because we got a good show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about two cases tonight and the possibility of these cases maybe being connected. I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit, not necessarily against it, but I'm open to the idea. There, I'll explain why I think there's a possibility of it. And so much more. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Without further ado, let's bring in tonight's special guest. We have Alina from Crime Scene Collective. How's it going?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. I had a procedure earlier today, so I'm still a little foggy, but I think I'll get by. I'm feeling a lot better than I was earlier.
I won't make you sign any contracts, I promise.
That's what they told me when I left. They're like, don't sign any contracts, don't do anything. Don't make any
3 days. Yeah.
Decisions. Yeah, exactly. And so, but
I hope you feel better. I hope it works.
I hope so too. I'm a little bit sore right now. For those that didn't know, I was involved in a car accident where I was rear-ended at a red light and ended up getting had some pretty bad issues with my back. Ended up herniating like 7 places throughout my spine. And so, and then I also had a pretty serious concussion and been going through that. And today they did some epidural injections into my spine. And so I've had to deal with that. But here I am. That was around noon-ish. Definitely wasn't going to be able to go live earlier than this. That's for sure. But I want to thank everybody who's checked in on me and things of that nature. So I appreciate y'all. Today, I didn't get a chance to catch it all. I know you sent it to me, but there was an interview, and we'll get into the Nancy Guthrie case first. There was an interview in the Nancy Guthrie case with the sheriff of Pima County. You caught it, right? You caught the entire thing?
Well, I tried to. I recorded it, and then I meant to go back and listen to the interview with Sheriff Nanos. What was different about it is that he did this interview at a radio station. So, right. It was kind of, when I heard about it, the way I heard about it is, Sheriff Nanos is going to do, maybe a presser or speak. And typically, we wait for the cameras and the, reporters to kind of show up, and there was nothing. There was no activity. So this was kind of, under the wraps, like not a lot of people knew about it. And the sheriff showed up to this radio station, and there was one of the independent creators over there at that time. And he did approach the sheriff, and he did try to ask a couple questions. The sheriff was very polite. He wasn't rude. He answered the best that he could, this gentleman that approached him. But then he just walked right into the building. And from what I understand, and I don't know 100%, I believe this is an AM station in Tucson. And so there's a lot of commercials that they have to go through. They got to pay the bills, or, everyone's sponsored. And so, once he got on, for me, it sounded like it just was very hard to listen and understand. And I tried to record it on my phone, and I had it playing on the TV. And I just couldn't really understand what they were talking about. It sounded like two older gentlemen that just kind of got together and just shot it around. And maybe I heard Miss Nancy's name mentioned once or twice, but it was difficult for me to get any information. It seemed like they were talking more about the community in general and, what's going on in Tucson, right, during this time, and kind of just stuff like that. But I didn't catch anything that I could resonate with, but I could have very well missed it too, because I ran out of time to listen back on it.
I listened to just part of it. I rewound it and listened to some of what he was saying. And the major question that I got, or the major concern from the radio host, was that I guess the sheriff was seen walking into or out of a gym here recently, and apparently he doesn't take his phone with him while he's in the gym. And they were questioning him about him going to the gym without his phone, and I think he was on the clock or something of that nature as well. And so, not really the best look if it was on the clock. He does have to have some sort of. I don't see anything wrong with
How
him
do they
working
know
out.
he didn't have his phone? Did he confirm it?
He did confirm it. He did
Yikes.
confirm it. He says that that's the only hour he gets that he puts his phone away, and he doesn't. He has to have time to himself. Which, I mean, he's a
Right.
human being. He's not
Everybody
a.
has to decompress. Yeah.
So I don't necessarily see that as a big deal. I find it more interesting that that's the topic of discussion. The sheriff's workout routine.
Right. Yeah.
That's when
And
you know.
that they know it, right? And
But
they're following it instead of looking for him. Why aren't these same people that are figuring out whether or not he has his phone on him and where he's working out and what time he's working out, put those same efforts into looking for some more answers on what's going on with Nancy and that whole situation, and not following around this one gentleman that I think, honestly, if he is taking this 1 hour and that's his little decompression time and he knows his phone is not with him, I would feel that he's probably telling his next in command, hey, this is my hour, forward all calls to you, and I'm not going to be, able to be connectable in the next hour until XYZ time. So, make sure you know that when the phone rings, answer it, or you get a text, I'm not available. So you have to be, have an extra, perk your ears just a little bit more during this hour. But I'm not sure if he's done that.
You know what it tells me? He's not expecting anything. He's not expecting a call. He's not expecting the detectives to come in with some sort of information that's going to break the case. I think, and I have been saying this for a minute now, that I don't think they're any closer to solving this. Everything that I've seen them do, including now going back and talking about construction workers, which, hey, maybe they find something. It's good that they're going back and they're uncovering these things. But what it says to me is that they had a possible clear path or a suspect or suspects, which we know that they did search a couple of vehicles.
Right.
And it didn't pan out. And they put a lot of eggs in that basket. And now they've had to start all over again. And now they're looking at construction workers, which I had Steve. He's a former CSI crime scene investigator. He was on the show last night. If you guys haven't watched it, please go back and watch it after this podcast. Super informative. I've dropped a couple of shorts on my TikTok, which is linked in the description now. I've been meaning to do that. Link that in the description. Also in the description and linked in the live chat pinned at the top is my TikTok, and also Elena's Crime Scene Collective TikTok, and also her new YouTube channel. So make sure you guys go out there, sub and subscribe. I also kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a hint. I have a second YouTube channel out there. It has nothing to do with true crime. I only got 28 subscribers. I don't think you guys will find me, but if you find me, please go and subscribe to it. It has to do with, I'll give you guys a hint so you guys aren't just searching for everything, but it does have to do with me ripping Pokemon cards.
Ooh,
So
little nugget of information there. Go find them.
Go find me. If you find me, maybe you'll get a prize.
Ooh.
All right. I'll come up with something. There's like 3 people that know who it is. And so I'm not gonna, you guys are out, but everybody else, you guys are good. So here's
I'll tell you. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's the post from Michael Reese. He puts on here, update, Pima County Sheriff Department confirms investigators are looking into reports of suspicious activity in her neighborhood. Again, this is me thinking that they have gone back to square one. What do you think about that? Do you think that they have gone back to square one?
Well, I mean, yes, they're going back to the drawing board. What I think is, a thought that I had when even I was still in Tucson is, I thought that they were pushing everybody out, that they were on this like 30-day kind of closeout. They're working on some 30-day timeline. And once that 30-day ends, they're going to have, like, right during those first 30 days, in my mind, I was like, they have, their A team on the case. But once that 30 days goes, they're maybe going to have to take their A team and put it on the more important things, or the things that are more, prevalent in Tucson at that moment, and then now have to put their B team on the case. It doesn't mean that their B team is, not good or doesn't have the right qualifications. It's just that they now have to move things along. It's the cycle of, how this all works. But this also means it's a fresh set of eyes. It's a fresh set of ideas and tactics and, not so much theories, but honestly, a fresh set of eyes and a fresh set of a person that had different training, maybe in a different area. So they have different things going on in their mind. So with the FBI and everybody revisiting the area and all that, something that I'm not making this up myself. I did see this somewhere else. A good theory to think of this is like, if you lose something, like if you lose your glasses and you can't find them and you've looked everywhere and time's gone by, well, what do? You go back to the first place that you kind of thought that you left them, right? So for me, it's kind of that, like they're going to the beginning where this all started. Like, did we miss anything? Now we have a fresh set of eyes on it. So let's see if we didn't look, behind this curtain for those glasses. Well, now we have Bobby over here, and he now is thinking, because he's got a fresh set of eyes, he's going to look for my glasses behind this curtain because it's a brand new thing for him, and maybe nobody else has thought of that. So I think they're just going over these steps to make sure that, maybe something was missed, but it's a fresh set, and that's just, they're retracing the steps and just making sure nothing was missed. But also with the construction worker and all that, like that theory and all of that, I think a lot of that also stems from, we had a couple dates we had, some dates in the beginning that everybody was working with. And, it was obviously January 31st, because that's the last day that anybody has seen Miss Nancy. And then obviously February 1st. So, that is, which right now brings us to 48 days missing, 49 days since she was last seen alive. But, and then they threw out another date at us. And then suddenly we're hearing about this January 11th date, right? And it's like, well, what does this January 11th date have to do with anything? And then it's like, oh, well, somebody saw somebody walking by, or there was some chatter in some neighborhood apps. And then just, what was it, a few days ago, we hear about January 24th. Well, now they're saying it's kind of the same thing, that there's now some video footage and some other neighbors that there's some suspicious activity on the 24th as well. Well, what do those two dates have to do with one another? And also with the date of when Nancy was abducted, they all fall on a weekend. So the reason I think they're looking at the construction workers is because typically the workers don't work on weekends. So now they're kind of retracing this, and they're thinking, so we have somebody that is active in this area, but it seems primarily only on the weekends, and they were active in the month of January. So let's go back and see who was working in this area in the month of January, and what was their schedules like? Who was scheduled for all these weeks, but then stopped showing up all of a sudden come February, the week of February 1st. And they're like, you know what? I don't need this job anymore. Or I'm sick and I can't come back. Or, you know what? My mom or my dad needs me back in, Kansas. So I got to fly out, and I don't know when I'll be, like, whose schedule changed. And I think they're going to take all of that and look at it all over again. And that could have been an idea from somebody in Team B. Who knows? It's a new set of eyes and a new set of theories that I think they have to explore, because what else do they have? Nothing, right? They have nothing.
I agree with you, and I think you bring up an excellent point about the weekend thing. I hadn't thought about that. That's a really excellent point, that the dates that they're looking in are on the weekend. Now, the one thing that I kind of go back on is that for them to be starting over, nothing's panned out, which would lead me to believe that nothing panned out on those 2 days. What did they do around, shortly after that? Well, they detained Carlos, and they detained the neighbor. I wonder if they were on camera around those times, whether he was delivering packages, or if Daly was seen in the area around that time, in his vehicle, and they were trying to see if they got more footage, or maybe, it's a weekend. So, if it's Daly, if he's a party goer, is he coming back home at an odd hour of the night? Are they looking at his vehicle? Are they looking for other footage of his vehicle out there at that night? It's a good possibility, but you bring up an excellent point of it being a weekend.
Right.
That's an excellent point. I did not think about that.
And like, so that's that part, but hold on. I want to,
Well, you do that. I do want to say that it says here separately, DNA analysis is still underway 47 days later, meaning they're having some difficulty either separating it or building a tree. What does that tell you?
Okay, well, honestly, like I cannot find anybody that I have spoken to that has knowledge on DNA or IgG. Like I've spoken to scientists, I've spoken to like professionals in the field. I've connected and, I've done my own research. I can't find anything that has told me that there would be problems spinning it and separating the DNA. I just can't find that. I'm finding the exact opposite, and that spinning the DNA and separating it should take less than 24 hours. Like that's technology that we have at our fingertips. Like I learned that, I remember doing that in chemistry class when in high school, and that was a long time ago, so the fact that I can remember when we use those fast spinning machines in chemistry, and back then we were already, I think back then we learned how to spin male DNA from female DNA, and it was like, oh, partner up with somebody of the opposite sex, and we're going to show you something fascinating. And that's what they showed us back then, So for even now, so many years later that they can't separate, two DNAs, I'm not buying that. But, again, they're not telling us a lot of stuff. So with that, let's say they got some DNA. And then they're also saying, well, this person is not in CODIS, or we can't really pull too much of a profile on them, or, whatnot. They're just kind of struggling with it. But we know about IgG, right? So they still are able to pull something. I mean, they should be able to pull if this person has light color eyes, dark color eyes, no eyes, if they're blind. I mean, they should be able to pull hair color, dark, light, the tone, skin tone, race, what part of the country they're typically, the numbers show like percentages. We should get some kind of profile built, just a starting point, and none of this stuff that that everyone's saying that they're still stuck on the spin. I mean, give it to me. I'll help you spin it. I'll help. I don't know what to say, but and I do know that from sources, so I can't like confirm factual, like I don't have it in like stamped print, but from people that I do trust, that it has been sent to Othram. And I don't know if you remember, but it was several weeks ago, I think, when Nanos said it could take several weeks, 2 months, or years. Do you remember when he said that statement?
Yeah.
That was when it was sent to Othram. It take several weeks, months to years.
Why that concerns me?
Why?
So that tells me, if they could spin it and they can get it out pretty quick, that tells me that there's a good possibility that this guy, and remember, they were also looking at, so there was some gun shop owners, they brought in some photographs of some people, and they said that everybody that, that they brought in photographs of that had purchased a weapon was Hispanic or of Mexican descent. And what concerns me is maybe this guy doesn't have that much of a tree. I don't know what platforms they use, if those platforms are used in different countries. What if this guy's not from here? And the reason they're having a problem building a tree for him is because the majority of his family isn't here.
I agree.
I
agree. And yes, and I think that was kind of what they were trying to say without saying it in so many words, without giving that information out. I'm speculating. And and then when it was sent to Othram, if I have that information correct, and during that time is when it was said it could take weeks to months to years. I think that even is true on behalf of Othram, because of how much, like you were just saying, there just isn't enough to build from the profile. Like maybe they do have the profile of, okay, we know that this person most likely has this color eyes and this color hair and this, this type of, or, this race, or from this part of the country, but that's it. And that could be, millions of people, and that's all they have. So they can't build a tree. So the reason they might be saying it could take years is because maybe in 3 months or during the holidays, when all those, 23andMe things go on sale, maybe they're going to get a hit because somebody got somebody a present and they swiped it and they submitted it, and holy cow, we just got a hit because, somebody's birthday and they got a gift.
Yeah. I think so too. And the more I think about this DNA and how long it's take, the more I'm thinking that this person's family may be out of the country. You know how in the Brian Koberger case, they wanted to get a hold of some brothers,
Mhm.
these 4 brothers that were distinct relatives. And then that's when the FBI got involved. What if these relatives that they need to get a hold of aren't in the United States? That would create a lot of obstacles for law enforcement to go in there and surreptitiously or even ask for DNA,
Right.
out into another country. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, is that or
Well, and it
government
opens
involvement?
up a whole new set of laws. Like, we don't know what the laws are in other countries and how an American law enforcement can go in and get, swab the inside of their mouth. Like, what what is that? What's the protocol for that? What do they have to prove before even just asking that question? Like, we don't know. We don't know what's it like if I had to go to Argentina right now and just, a police officer had to go there and swab somebody. How easy is that, or how difficult is that? We have no idea, or I don't. At least I know that law enforcement does, or somebody over there does, but I have no idea how difficult that is, and if that's a drawback. If that's like, we're not funded for this, or we don't, we're already short staffed. Who's going to go do that? That's another dead end. Maybe they're like, that's another dead end.
Well, I mean, the president in the United States is involved. I don't think funding's ever going to be an issue with this one, but and just the national attention that this case is garnished, I would expect all your resources be utilized. United States Dale comes in with $5. Thank you, Dale, for this. Says, why haven't they identified the actual weapon? They have a picture of its end. By the way, I think he's also carrying a Reg Allen pen, light doctors use. Interesting. That's a good possibility. That mouth light that he has is interesting. Which, going back to the way this case has been investigated, I think it's poor. Just from the outside looking in, the fact that mat, did they ever collect the mat that he stepped
No,
on?
they didn't. No. And that's like, that was the start of the faux pas. Like, I think once people found that out, watching it from day one and seeing that being trampled on, and that just started it. That started the unraveling of what is going on here, and is this being taken seriously? But then it also opened up the other side of the gate where people just thought this was going to be like figured out. They were gonna catch the person, and Nancy was going to come home one way or another within a week. Like, that it was all being rushed through, or they knew what they were doing, and that's why everything was happening. Once when a case like this happens, or any cases, for me, the initial, when I start watching it, my initial, thought is, I trust what I'm seeing. It's not, oh crap, let's see what they're messing up now. That's not how I approach any case at all. I trust what I'm seeing until I'm given a reason not to.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Hey, what's going on? Flojo's in here. Good to see you, my man. I also want to thank, I haven't done it yet, Robin and J Jad 355 or J355 for being the newest members. Thank you guys. Yeah, it's this case is frustrating. To me, I have found it so odd that some of the things, even like I said, I had a crime scene investigator on Steve from True Crime Web on the channel last night. And he's like, that doorbell holder, that door frame, the locks, the mat, the plants that were on the floor. I mean, those are items that he touched. I mean, if he drove there, he must have stepped in his vehicle. Now, granted, maybe he dextered it out or something, but if he walked out of his house and then walked into his car and then walked into that scene and walked onto that mat, there were fibers.
That's
I
right. I was
mean,
gonna say fibers. Yeah.
the guy could have been at one point, eating something, dropped the crumb, fell on the
Right.
carpet. He step on it, goes to the crime scene, and it gets left behind on the mat. Heck, I mean, even if that's all it takes to identify a possible person that shouldn't be on that mat, I mean, that just gets the ball rolling. And I think you lose a huge opportunity by not picking it up.
Well,
Uh,
that, and he also had that, whatever he had in his mouth that whole time.
yeah,
So, I mean, we don't know how long he had that in his mouth. Like if that was, I mean, some people have told me that they thought it was like a clip light, like a
A
tooth.
mouth light.
Yeah, like it was clipped in. So for me, I'm thinking I would have started drooling. Like I would have had like a drip here or there, because if I can't like go like that and swallow, I'm screwed. So, but
Well,
that's
that,
just me. Like,
man,
how do we know that he didn't have saliva like gathering somewhere, like out of nervousness? And when he looks down, oh crap, it just dropped. We don't
yeah.
know, and they don't know either because they didn't even try.
And here comes Steve. Steve saying they didn't do fiber lifts from the mat as the flower petals wouldn't be there after processing. So they didn't process the mat from the area. So uh, the fact that he had his mouth open to click open and close that light, I feel he had to take that light out at some
Mhm.
point. That would have DNA on his hand.
Right.
He had to have entered somehow. Um, if he didn't, he's breathing. He doesn't have
Right.
his mouth covered. He has his mouth open. And so that entire door, that entire wall should have been processed,
Yeah.
because he was looking around, he was doing this, he was doing that.
Right.
That just, the fact that it didn't happen. Now I know that a few days later, like a week later, they had a tarp up, but after 4 or 5 days in the Phoenix heat, how valuable, how is DNA even good at that point? Steve, I want to ask you that. In Arizona, if he had breathed on that door frame and it took them 4 days to put up the sheet cover, because I think it was more than that. I think it was a week. Would there be any, valid DNA left to process or pick up, or would the sun, would the heat, would the dust in the air, people walking around, would that just completely ruin it? I think it would. In the end, I think it would.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know how long the DNA would like be active in
Yeah.
the on the front stoop. I honestly don't, so I have no idea. I really
Yeah.
don't.
I'm hoping Steve hears that one and give us an answer. But while he's doing that, authorities obtained additional images from Guthrie's home security system, but have no images of the suspect. Efforts to recover more video is ongoing. And he also downplayed recent reports that investigators have recovered video of Guthrie's last known Uber ride, which I don't understand. I mean, the only thing that I can think of as far as, the video for the Uber ride is anybody following them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I do have information on the Uber
What do you
ride.
have? What do you have?
So it was a short drive, right? They did get the footage or audio from that drive. And I mean, I'm not okay. So I say it's a short drive. It's 4 miles. So, 4 miles over there can take a little bit. It's a 10-minute drive. So in that 10 minutes, they did pull whatever information they could, whether it's audio or video. And a lot of people are saying, well, why would it matter? It's a short drive. What really can they gather from the 8 to 10 minutes that, Nancy's going over to her daughter's house? Because, when you get in the car, for the people that, take Ubers or Lyfts or, take a car places, you get in and it's like, oh, hi, how are you? This, and that. So, there's a formalities that can kill, 30 seconds to 90 seconds, right? So now we're killing this time that it takes to get to Annie's house. So how much are they talking? How much are they getting to know each other? Really not that much, right? But what we can kind of gather from this, which I wish they'd share with us, what she was wearing. We still have no idea what she was, the last scene clothes that she, what she was seen last in, right? We would get to know what she was wearing, the type of clothes that she kind of feels comfortable in, like what type of shoes she wears. For me, I find that very interesting. Also what her demeanor was like was she in a chippery mood, or was she kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this. It's kind of late for me, anything, women at that age, or anybody at once you hit a certain, older age, you love to talk. You love to talk. So I kind of feel that she would have loved to talk. And plus, that's the feeling I got from other people in the area. They always said that when they saw her outside, she would chat them up and she was always engaging in conversation. So yeah, we have a very short drive. So maybe they just, whoever has this video, if it's FBI or the Pima County, why they're not sharing it, I have no idea. They're probably like, yeah, there's nothing in here. But I also think for people like us, we would love to see just anything, you know, her demeanor, her how she was carrying herself, what she was wearing, her shoes, how she was walking, how, how easily she was kind of like her mobility, stuff like that. I just really think that's important to know because I mean, I don't mean to like keep talking, but then also like we know that she was dropped off at what 9:41 or something, and or 9:40. The garage was open for 2 minutes, and then she has that medicine, that AM PM kind of stuff. And from
Yeah.
what I understand, she never took her PM medicine for that evening, which she typically takes at 10 p.m. So that's like a 20-minute thing there.
How do you know that?
Well, I just from a reliable source, from a very reliable source. But well, no,
Do
I
you
won't
think it may
I
have
won't say
been?
very. No, I take that back. I'll say from a semi-reliable source, not one of my top ones. It's one of my medium ones. So that's why I'm kind of like, I'm waiting to hear more about that. But I haven't heard anything otherwise. So it's the AM PM, and typically it's the around 10 o'clock before she heads off to bed. And from what I've been told, that PM medicine was not taken. So, and then she has, she left her hearing aids, but so she did still put herself to bed though. So she still did put herself to bed because she did leave her hearing aids on her, wherever she leaves her hearing aids typically.
Right.
So,
So if she took her hearing aids off, she most likely changed, which means her appearance in the vehicle probably doesn't make as much of a difference. Now, if anybody's following the vehicle, that would be interesting. The only other thing is too, when it comes to the medication, the one thing I would want to know is, did she drink any alcohol that night? If she did, was she known to not, if she had a drink, maybe she didn't use her night meds, if she had a cocktail or something,
right,
nothing crazy.
right.
And so those are some of the things that I wonder. But it does sound like she put herself to bed. It sounds like the camera didn't go out till 1:40 something in the morning. And so,
147. Yeah.
I know I saw this one thing. Somebody had posted it and said that there are rumors now beginning to believe that he had a partner inside the house. That's why he walked up
Mhm,
nonchalant or whatever,
mhm.
and that's why they can't find evidence. And I'm like, well, how did that guy get in?
Right.
He must have got in somehow too, unless you're assuming that he was hiding in the garage or snuck into the garage when it was open for a whole minute.
Did you see the video though? Like when they're talking about him going to grab the handle and like why that theory was formed? Like
I didn't see
where
him
that
really go
theory.
grab the handle.
So that theory kind of was born from when this guy walked up to the doorway. The very first thing he did was he went to grab the handle first, as if the door's unlocked and ready for me. And then he kind of looks up and there's windows on the side. And he looks up like somebody's saying, no, there's a camera right there, bro. And he's like, oh, shoot. And then he goes and skews the camera. So watch his
See,
hand.
I don't
Hold
see him
on.
grab the doorbell.
But
Go ahead.
no, first he looks to the side and they say, all right, so go back. I misspoke on that. So he goes to this window and they say, look, and his hand goes right to the handle, like it's unlocked.
No, that's the doorbell camera he's messing with.
Right, but his hand goes to the handle. His other hand goes to the handle as if he's expecting it to be unlocked and ready to walk in.
See, I don't see him ever
Look at the other hand.
grab the handle. Yeah, I see this hand here.
And then
He's grabbing the
ready.
doorbell, the bottom of the doorbell camera.
There he goes. He's ready to grab the
I
hand.
think
The handle's right there.
no, the handle's more this way. See how this is where his hand is? See where the camera is in the center? His hand is vertically lower, straight down from where that camera is. So his hand is right here. It's not over here. His hand would have been quite a bit to the left. His hand is straight down from the camera. So his right hand is moving the doorbell camera.
All right, let's see it again.
See, he goes over to the right. And you see where his hand is reaching, it is straight down line. Vertical. If his hand was touching the doorbell, it'd be right here. Off to the it wouldn't be directly straight like that. So right here, I mean, it's even more to the left, in my opinion, than where the
Really
door
does
is.
the turning, like the hand movement.
So then he goes around. He never touches the doorbell, the doorknob. Not in
Well,
this
that's
case.
where that theory was born from. So that I'm just letting you know that's where the theory was born from, that there was somebody on the other side of the door.
Yeah.
And I just want to speak on that, right? So you just showed the door. So can you show the front door again?
Yeah.
So
Wish I
that,
had the reef over here, but there is a window right here. You're right.
right, so that window. So that door, like I'm sure where you live, I don't want to name where you live, but you're in Texas, right? I'm in
Mhm.
Texas. Does that door look familiar to you? Where in your areas? Like, do you guys have doors like that? Have you seen it
I've
driving
seen
around?
doors like this. Yeah.
Okay, so it's typical in this region, right? Because it's typical, like I've seen it driving into Dallas and stuff like that. It's not an atypical door, right?
Right.
But some of these theories that are coming out are saying that this door was specific for Nancy. She had this as a security gate door. And that's why there's the bars on the door and all of that, that she has this door as an extra layer of security. It's called a security gate door. I honestly just have to, respectably disagree with that, theory. I don't think this is a security gate door. I think this is just what a lot of people have, especially on older homes. And this is a one-way kind of viewing door. So you can have your front door open and I can see outside and enjoy the outside, but you can't see inside, right? It's kind of a privacy door so you can have the front door open and enjoy the breeze. Okay.
Mhm.
So then they were saying that because of this being a security door and it's called a safety, I think I may have even wrote it down, like it was like some big word. It's a wrought iron door, but that I don't think that has anything to do with the safety of it.
I
But
will say, as a former police officer, this is a door that is very difficult to get into. As you can see right there in the front, there's a metal plate protecting somebody from um, trying to unlock or slide a card or do any of those things
right.
through that area. And it is a metal door. It's a heavy door.
But I've
I
seen those doors in California, everywhere. Like in Texas, I've seen them. Like in New York, I can promise you, I honestly have never seen a door like it's not typical. But in warm weathers and warm climates, that door is, for me, just my personal opinion, especially in California and here in Dallas, I've seen this door, and with that whole front with the lock, layering over 100, like lots.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. So the other thing that was being pushed out with that is that Miss Nancy locks those, with the keyholes, those two locks, she must lock it on the inside as well.
Yeah, I think
So,
you can
and
only
her
lock it from inside.
primary
With a key.
entrance, like, exit and entrance is through the garage, right?
I
So,
would assume so.
how would this person even know to go through the front door or whatnot? So I just would like to say, I don't think that she locks that door because there were Amazon packages on the front step. So for an older lady, I don't think that every time she got a package, she went and found the keys and unlocked this door and unlocked that door and then opened it and then bent down and retrieved the packages. If that's where she's always telling Amazon to drop off her packages. I think it's just one of those, like a screen door that is pushed open, which is why they knew they could go to that door.
I mean, it's possible that she may have left it unlocked. I don't know. What intrigues me though is the timeline. Let me go pull it up real quick. And I know a lot of people are caught up on the camera disconnecting and her pacemaker going out as being, a lot of the perpetrator being in the house that entire time. I don't believe that to be the case. There's a person that's detected on camera at 2:12. So this is almost 20 minutes later. Somebody's detected on camera, and they thought that it could have been an animal. So unless she has a cat or something inside of the house, this is an outdoor camera. And if this was a suspect that was, detected, This is most likely like an outdoor side camera or the back camera. This tells me he hadn't made entry yet. He was still trying to figure it out. I strongly suspect that this guy had a I strongly suspect this guy's no amateur burglar. I'll put it that way. I know a lot of people look at the gun position, the reflectors, and a bunch of other things as an indication that he was some idiot or something. But I think he's wanting Nancy, and honestly, I think he wants the world, to see him, especially maybe perhaps even Savannah Guthrie more so than anybody, to see the gun, see him, see his person. I think he was just trying to cover the camera here, so that way, because I think he felt he was going to park the car there, I don't know, and utilize that to get to her. I do think this is the same night where he's standing there. These dots, these smaller lights, I had Steve on, former CSI.
Yeah, I remember.
He suspects that these are reflections off of, like, maybe perhaps, stop signs. It could be reflections off of cars that are parked out there. It could be reflections off of houses or things of that nature, not necessarily light sources, a reflection of the moon. And to me, I always thought, well, also the plants, they're all the same. Like, none of the branches move. If this was taken a month later, I strongly suspect that there would have been some movement, given the fact that, from February to earlier in January, there's probably a little bit more light, not a whole lot, but a little bit more light, and the sun position moves a little bit. That tells me he's missing his backpack. He's missing his gun. This is well after he's approached. I think his approach is initially when he walked up the very first time. He's coming around. Now, have you ever noticed, like on a security cam footage, when it turns on for the first time, it's got a focus. So sometimes it comes out super dark. Sometimes it comes out super bright. Sometimes it's black and white. Then it goes into color. Sometimes it's color. Then it goes into black and white, depending on the night. I think that's what we're seeing here. Why it's so dark compared to the other ones is because this is the moment it turns on. And for me, if the other video turns on while he's walking up this way from the left, which I always thought was staging, by the way, I always thought he was staging that walk from the left. This means he's coming from the right, coming around the plant, and now he's activating the light because he had to go around the plant. The plant blocked the motion of him coming around until he got to this point. And so he doesn't have the backpack with him. He doesn't have the gun with him. That tells me he probably needed to jump a fence, or especially with the backpack, if that is some sort of, I don't know, some sort of jammer, Wi-Fi jammer. I think he's leaving it in the backyard, so that way it's obstructing his entry. Maybe he finally made entry into the home. I don't know. Maybe he found a way. Comes back to take the doorbell camera because he couldn't find a way to hide it. I don't know, but he comes back around, and I do believe this is the same night. I know a lot of people think it might be a different night. Again, they're back at square one. I strongly suspect that the reason why they were looking at those days, January 24th and 11th, had to do with Daly or Carlos, because that's what they were investigating at that time. They've started over, so they're back at square one. So whatever it is that they were looking for on those days, in my opinion, probably turned out into a dud. And again, what they were searching for and searching were Carlos and Daly, which ended up being nothing. So I and the sheriff also is pretty strongly alluded to this being possibly the same night, that there's no evidence that this is a different night. And so I say all that to say that I think this guy wanted to be seen. This was something that he, I remember where I was going. So the timeline, I honestly don't think he was in there that long. I think he was in there probably between 2:15 and 2:28. I mean, that's still 13 minutes. That's about the same amount of time that Brian Cooper.
I was just going to say, no, not the 13 minutes.
That's 13 minutes.
Okay.
And so,
so one of the neighbors did report that their dog, who typically always sleeps through the night or is like, will bark when there's literally just an alarm or a safety reason to bark. So their dog did start to bark frantically at, I think, 2:00. I wrote it down somewhere, but I can't find it. But I think around 2:00 in the morning. And What was unique about that, okay, here it is. So between 2 and 2:30, the right next door to Annie, but I'm not going to say which side to Annie, the dog started barking crazily towards, or not Annie, I'm sorry, I misspoke. This is Nancy's house, not Annie. I take all that back. So it's the neighbor next door to Nancy's. And the dog between 2 and 2:30 woke up and started barking frantically towards the back yard of Nancy's home. And so the owners of that house with the dog, they have cameras in their backyard, in the side yard, and in their front yard, right? And so they went and immediately checked the cameras, and because their dog was barking towards the back and over to Miss Nancy's house, that's where they checked first. And they were one of the people that say their cameras were not working. And they went and checked their side cameras and their front cameras at the same time. Those were running a feed. So these are one of the people that could not pull any imagery from their backyard, but could from their side and front during the hours of 2 to 2:30, and their dog was barking like very crazily, and they said it even scared them. So, that is something to be said for that hour. But if the guy did come the night before, maybe they didn't ask, or maybe these people didn't make, or this person didn't make as much noise for the dog to bark. If the person was there the night before and they were just kind of looking around, then maybe because they were quiet. But if they came the same night, I think the noise had to have happened when, Miss Nancy is being, taken out of the property. I think that's going to be the noisiest. So I don't know. And then we also know that FBI has been revisiting the neighborhood and all that. So what they're also doing is now they're actually sitting down with some of these neighbors and going through their footage with them. So these, so nobody can be like, oh, let's just kind of run through that. They're literally sitting down and going through their camera feed with the neighbors to make sure that nothing is missed. So I do know that. So I think that's, this is what they're doing while they're revisiting the neighborhood and speaking to the neighbors, whoever will speak. And we have to remember, some neighbors aren't willingly speaking or answering questions or giving up their footage. They just aren't, and some are. So
you bring up the fact that some of these cameras didn't work, and that's why I was kind of curious about the possible jammer theory, is because when wasn't it working? Wasn't it not working like shortly after this, when he left possibly the backpack on the side of the house? And I've strongly suspected that they don't have an image of the vehicle. And could he be added on during the time of his getaway and arrival, which would affected some of the home camera systems, which mainly operate off of Wi-Fi in that area? Is that a reason why we don't see his vehicle approaching or leaving? I don't think, what do you call it? I think that it's very plausible that he may have had one. And if he did, and he's coming out clear in this moment, it's because he wanted to be seen. He wanted to strike fear. He wanted somebody to see him.
Right. But we also don't know, like right now, what we know is that there's no vehicle that they're letting us know about, right? There could be a vehicle that they're just not sharing with the public, right?
Well, I mean, with so many dead ends that they've had, you think they would ask for some help at this point?
Well, I can share that there is a residence that they have visited upwards of 12 to 13 times, and this residence does have a certain vehicle on their camera. It's a blue Ram truck during the correct times. And then I guess the follow-up would be the 11th and the 24th, and they keep visiting this one house over and over again. So are they asking for video from the 11th, from the 24th? But the fact that they've now been there 12 to 13 times and keep going back to the same person's house, and this is the vehicle that they're interested in, maybe there is a vehicle of interest and they're just not ready to give all of that information out yet. But, behind the scenes, I do know that they are following a vehicle lead. They're just, maybe they haven't tied up all the loose ends on it yet to know that it's shareable. But as of, several days ago, they were still visiting this person, from what I have been told.
Interesting. in the end, we know that Nancy was bleeding. She got into possibly a vehicle. Um, there should be, and that's where it kind of differs a little bit. If law enforcement has, well, now it's been quite a bit of time. So whoever did this has had now an opportunity to clean their car, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the differences. And I know some folks are saying, hey, there's no shadows and stuff. Again, the reason why I say that, if you guys go and watch some of my coverage, as far as the image that I have here, as to why I think this is the same night, and some folks are saying there's no shadows. We don't know that there's no shadows. And the reason why I'm saying that is we don't know when this camera turned on. When I covered the Brian Koberger case and we looked at the Linda Lane footage, there was a moment where there's a vehicle that pulls up and it changes the way that the camera works, right? Because it was black and white, and the vehicle pulls up with the headlights on, and then it changes into color, and then when the vehicle goes away, it goes back and forth. And as it's changing between black and white and then color and going back into these different modes, or activating and deactivating, it doesn't look the same. There's a moment of brightness and a moment of darkness before it focuses in. We don't know if that's what's happening here. There's a good possibility that the picture that we have here as he's coming around the corner this is when the camera has picked up his motion and is activating for the first time.
Right.
And we don't know if the image is darkened because it's activating for the first time. Like I said, I strongly suspect that the way this guy approached this place, let me go back. I think it's staged, 100% staged. He is walking from the left side. I think he's doing it to make people believe that he parked over there. And I'll show you why here in a second. I wish I had an order. I have it backwards a little bit. So it's right around here. In fact, when it turns on, I don't think I can capture it. You see that brightness that it hit?
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment of brightness that just flashes. Yeah. And then it goes normal. So there you go. I mean, we don't know if that's what's going on the other side, if when that image was taken, but as you can see, it picks him up way over here. On the other image, he's over here. So if he's coming around this side, right side of the camera, and it's barely picking him up, it's probably because the camera didn't capture his motion, because it would have been blocked from the plant. Over here, it picks him up further because he's coming in from a further distance. I always felt that this was staged. Look at the way he walks. He looks down, he flashes the light that he has in his mouth. And look at where he steps. He steps on one line, steps on another. So he's walking toe and toe.
Mm-hmm.
This is all staged. This is all staged. He wanted people to see this. He wanted law enforcement to see this. And I think he wanted Savannah Guthrie and the world to see this. This is all staged. He's doing it for a reason. And then that's when he walks right here, turns, looks. I don't know if he's pretending to have a light. I don't know what the hell he's doing there, but he's acting weird. I wondered if he was trying to obstruct his face, but why would you go like that? Wouldn't you put your hand down?
Yeah, it's weird.
So I don't know. But to kind of any final thoughts on the Guthrie case before I kind of transition? I don't want to.
What about the polygraphs?
About the what?
Polygraphs.
Well, that's how they supposedly cleared the family members, right?
Well, that's what they're saying. But I mean, do you want to talk about the polygraphs? Because
let's talk about the polygraphs.
I can say a few things about them.
Let's talk about the polys.
So, what they want to tell the public is, everybody back off. We've given we've issued polygraphs. So that means they're not lying to us and they're cleared. But what I want the audience and the public to remember is that a polygraph is not a tool that is used by a person of interest. It is a tool used by law enforcement. It is their tool, not a citizen's tool. So when they're approaching a citizen and saying, hey, are you okay if we question you? Like maybe if we, use a polygraph, the minute that exits their mouths, it's game on. They are just watching their, what they say or how their face looks when they say that. their body language, how they, their cues. And it's just, right there, there's somebody, a body interpreter. I can't think of the right words right now, but there's somebody watching from the get-go as soon as they want to introduce a polygraph. And, and then they'll even, when they bring the person into the room, it's only the polygrapher and the person that they want to question. So now all of a sudden, the person that's being questioned, they're kind of feeling a little bit more comfortable because they're like, oh, so there's no cops in here. So it's just me and you're just some dorky guy with this machine. All right. So, and then the polygrapher will be like, so look, I'm going to have 5 questions for you. And, I see you're a little bit, nervous. Are you okay? And person can be like, yeah, I've got this. I've got nothing to worry about. And they'll be like, all right, so I'm going to tell you these 5 questions and, just making sure so you know exactly what's coming at you. So, you don't think that you're being set up. And I'll tell you these questions. So they're going to go, A, B, C, D, E. And they tell them the 5 questions. And then the person will be like, and the polygrapher will be like, are you good with these 5 questions? And the person can be like, yeah, I'm good. But, and then polygrapher can be like, but what? Well, question 1, I'm just kind of curious. Why do you have to ask it that way? Oh, do you want me to change it for you? No problem. But what they're doing is they're taking notes and somebody's listening. Why do they want them to change question 1? What makes you feel uneasy about it? But polygrapher will be like, making that person think that they just pulled one over on them. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, of course, I'll just reword it for you to make you not feel so uncomfortable. And they'll reword question number 1. And then they'll go on with the test. And then, as they're asking the questions, whatnot, they're watching all that. The test is not a pass or fail, no matter what. It's not green light, red light. And then typically what a person does after, and they're like, so how did I do? And the polygrapher polygrapher is basically like the x-ray tech, right? They'll take the x-rays, but they can't tell you the results. They'll say, well, now a radiologist has to read it. So the polygrapher will be like, you did good. I mean, from what I see, you got nothing to worry about, but I'm just the person issuing the test. So now we have to give it to the professionals to read, but hang tight. I mean, from what I see, you should be fine. That's their job, is to push out the easement, the calmness, and then they gather all this information, and then it's just used as a tool. It's not, and that's why it's not accepted in the court of law. That's why you can't use it in trial, because they just use this as, at the end of the day, like if something happens from 2 years from now, they're going to be like, let's look at the video of when we polygraphed that person and how they behaved, if something were to happen, and they just connect the lines. And again, it's just used as a tool for law enforcement and FBI. That's it. It's just to,
Well, I feel like I do need to correct a few things there. So I've taken a polygraph test for law enforcement purposes. I've also been associated with those, being in former law enforcement. The way it works is there is no funny business. There is no hidden tricks. There is no nothing. You get a list of every question that you're going to be asked beforehand. Mm-hmm. And, there's nothing that bounces off of there throughout that time frame. Right. So like, for instance, if you answer one question, they don't say, hey, you know what, this guy answered this weird. Let me ask a different question to further, explore. They can't do that.
Right.
Because if you ask somebody something that they're not expecting, you can get a response that could mimic a lie that's not a lie.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so they don't do that. Now, after the fact, they will use, all right, you failed it. We saw this, we saw that. Or, hey, we had some questions about these questions that you answered. And then at that point, they'll further expand on the questions that they had concerns about, if any. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and that's when the interrogation and the dance begins. That's when, you try to utilize what they said against them in that moment to rise a confession. Because you won't be able to use, for instance, the lie detector test per se, right? But let's just say after the fact, you say, hey, man, we got this evidence. You come in with your binder that says evidence on it. Put it down. Maybe you even have a DVD that says surveillance footage. You put that down. You don't show it to them, obviously. You say, we got this evidence, and we have this lie detector test that indicate to us that you're not being truthful. We need to talk about these things. And you pressure them at that moment. And then you can elicit a confession that throughout that means, and that confession is admissible in court. Mm-hmm. The other stuff that was said during the lie detector test that may have, pointed him in that direction is not. And so that's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, is there an interrogation with it? 100%. There definitely is.
Right.
If one is garnished, if they come in and, the guy says, no, I wasn't, and they have no evidence, but they're just doing this just to clear them out. They'll probably tell the guy right then and there, yeah,
Right.
you've been cleared.
Right.
And I think they've done that in this case with the family.
Yeah. And they have been cleared, like, and that's, we do know that. But I just wanted to, explain like the polygraph and the information that I learned about it, and you added information. So thank you for correcting me and, when I was wrong.
No, I mean, I'm trying to correct it. I just want to make sure that, because I know a lot of law enforcement also watch the channel and they'll comment on
Oh
it.
yeah, no, I need to learn. No, trust me, it's good. So before we wrap that up, let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything on the Nancy thing. And also how the sheriff is saying that he does think that this is a targeted
100%.
burglary, but then at the same time he's telling, so targeted means that they meant to go to Nancy's home, but then he's telling the community that he doesn't feel that anybody is safe. And that kind of, makes a lot of people over there feel very uneasy. It's kind of with the Koberger, how they put the hold on the community and saying everybody, stay inside. But then they released the hold and said, well, we feel like, it was a targeted hit, but we have no idea who it is, but all students can resume to normal activity. It was like, whoa, what do you mean? But then what we did know is they actually were honing in on a single person. So, who knows? A lot of the theories with professionals and, all that still stick with the 2-person theory. As you were saying earlier with Nanos and him not bringing his phone, that was an excellent point on perhaps it's because he's not expecting a call, And so I wrote down earlier too, this is a no body homicide. Like they know that this is not, they're not looking for a body anymore. They're looking for the whys, not a body anymore, which would, fit the theory of why he's not bringing his phone, because they're just trying to put the puzzle pieces together here and they're really not searching for Miss Nancy anymore, which I just cannot understand why. Why?
Well, to kind of piggyback on what the things you said, I think that they know that Nancy was targeted. And I think they said that they know it was a targeted event, but not a burglary. They don't believe anything was that it wasn't a targeted burglary, but that it was a targeted event, and that they also said that people should be alert. And this kind of goes to what pretty hate machine comes in saying, Stage, I don't get the purpose of that. I believe that this may be a fantasy driven crime. A lot of people haven't looked into it that way, but I think he wanted to be seen. I think he walked up there. If he had a jammer and it wasn't on, he clearly wanted to be seen. I think there's a possibility the flowers that he was placing or the plants that he was placing on the doorbell camera were twofold. I think it was to cover it so that he can try to mask his getaway. Felt that it wasn't going to work, and he decided to take the entire doorbell. And then the second thing is, I think he thought maybe perhaps it was maybe a message. But I strongly suspect that this was a fantasy driven crime. I think maybe he had an obsession with Savannah Guthrie. Maybe that's why he wanted to be seen. And if that is the case, mission accomplished. Savannah did see him, and so did the world. And so, I think that's why there's a good possibility he staged that. And I think that's a good possibility why other people could be in danger. Because if he is a sexually fantasized psychopath or whatnot, then I fully believe he's going to do this again. There's no way he doesn't do it again. And so just based on those statements from the sheriff, I wouldn't be surprised if they're starting to go down that path where this is a fantasy-driven kidnapping. Well, and why her when there's so many other famous? Well, I mean, it's also about,
right.
How, because I know we have some say, Stage, why target Nancy? And there's so many other. It's because accessibility. Are the other ones accessible to them? Do they live in the area? Do they live close by? Is it because of where she lives? Maybe the obsession, or maybe it's not even an obsession. Maybe it's more of a retaliation. Maybe he has a vendetta against Savannah Guthrie, and he wants her to see him and then take her home.
But what is he getting out of it? Just now he's a suspect of a murder, kidnapping, now, exhausting resources for upwards of 48 days. But really, what did he get out of it? Like, if it's a fantasy driven, just that Savannah got his attention and that's it.
Crazy people do crazy things. There was that one weirdo who shot President Reagan to try to get Jodie Foster's attention. So, I mean, just because it doesn't make any sense doesn't mean, that's not the purpose, the reason behind it. Like I said, there's multiple reasons, and then I mean, there's the theory, and we'll kind of transition into this one.
Okay.
That the reason why there's not anything found on it on the case, it's going cold, so to speak, is maybe perhaps. And I don't really subscribe to this, but some folks are saying that the government maybe needed something because there's the Jeffy files, there's a war, there's a general that's missing, and 6 others who are either missing or deceased that are connected with flight propulsion and stuff like that, which is what we're going to kind of talk about next. And maybe perhaps they're utilizing this as a I don't buy this one at all, by the way, but they're utilizing this as some sort of distraction. What do you think about those conspiracies? Well,
I really don't like to go with conspiracies, but I know what you're talking about. Like, I know about the 6 people that you've mentioned, that are government officials and connected to, yes, Neil McCaslin. I'm pretty familiar with what has transpired with this gentleman. But connecting it for me, I haven't made that connection. I'm curious what you've come up with.
I mean, if there wasn't the video and there wasn't any blood found outside. So, last thing we talked about yesterday with me and Steve was crime scene investigator, was the blood.
Right.
I strongly suspect, given the location of where the blood is, given the fact that there isn't a handprint or like her putting her hand to her mouth and then picking herself up, and how close in proximity that she was to the ground, that she was restrained, but not gagged or hooded. Right. So this person didn't care if she saw what vehicle they were going to get in, didn't care if she saw or did anything. He didn't have her hooded. Maybe he had her blindfolded. That's a possibility. Maybe, yeah. But I think she yelled. I think he smacked her, and I think she coughed or spit up and then got up. If it wasn't for that, if she didn't cough or spit, and let's just say, he had the jammer and he didn't leave that staged video of him walking up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we would have very similar situation. 2 elderly persons disappeared in the middle of the night, leaving all of their stuff behind. For those that aren't aware, William Neil McCaslin was a former general out of the, and this one's crazy, guys. There are 6 people who are missing. It is insane, or deceased. But 68-year-old William Neil McCaslin was last seen February 27th at approximately 11 a.m. in the area of Quail Run Court Northeast. He has no idea what they were wearing, no description of travel, unknown direction of travel, unknown description. And due to medical issues, law enforcement is concerned for her safety. Now, I have 3 possible avenues I think that this case has gone into, and I don't think it has anything to do with Ms. Guthrie, but I did want to open it up with that because there are some people who are saying that maybe perhaps Ms. Guthrie was taken because they needed something to hide this, to hide perhaps the Jeffy files. I'm gonna call it the Jeffy files because every time I say his last name, I get turned down. Which for some reason people, that should be the biggest news in the world. The stuff that's coming out on the Jeffy files, including his demise. There's been a lot of information that has come out to make people believe that maybe perhaps he's maybe not even gone. I don't even know, but
So he's missing out of New Mexico, right?
He is missing out in New Mexico. And
Okay.
let's look at a couple of things about, let's look at the timeline. So it's not the right timeline. No. I thought I had it. All right. So long story short, I think I have it by memory. Oh, you know what? I know where I have it. I know exactly where I have it.
I could say a few things while you look for it. So on February 27th, around 10 a.m., is when they're thinking that, or he had a contractor already at the house working on something. His wife had an appointment that should have taken an hour, with the whole commute. And there was all right, so let's see. Yeah.
Yes.
10 a.m., but yes. And then the appointment which should have taken an hour, and she's back within the hour, and he was gone during that. Like he basically skipped out. He was like, my wife's not here. I'm out of here. Right. What did he take with him? So a pair of shoes. He did not take his glasses, and he took a gun with him. And he was a pretty fit guy. In the Silver Alert, it says that he's been experiencing mental fog. His wife refutes that, and also investigators that are working diligently on this case say that they cannot find any medical information to substantiate this mental fog that is being claimed that he's been going through. Nobody has even treated him for this. So where that came from, nobody knows.
Well, he did. So out of the presser, it did say that he had expressed it to his friends and that he had sought medical attention. That was in the press conference, that he had recently sought medical attention for his fog. There's a lot of things that stick out about this. One, all right, so let's go back to the beginning. I don't understand why there isn't more, going on about this case. For one, first, he's a general that is missing who is in charge of weapons and missiles. There's an active war going on.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Like, and I know his wife comes out and says, what could he know from 2013 that would be good to know now? If one of our adversaries had a weapon, they don't know how to use it, and it's from 2012, 2010, but it's still a missile, you would want to know where this guy is at this point to make sure that you're not getting dropped something, right? So then you have the other persons that are involved. Now, the other thing that I think of when I see this case, and I hate to say this, guys, and you guys know me, I don't like bringing up anything with like family involvement, but I'm a little bit concerned about this one, and I'll explain why. And it's just my opinion and my thoughts on it. But there are some things that stick out that I just cannot not see. And so I've been pondering this for a while when I looked at it, and I something don't seem right, but I'll explain why here in a little bit. But let's go with first the possibility that this guy was maybe hushed by the government, right? I think there's a possibility that be the case because the government's not looking for him, not as harsh as they should be. In fact, there was some search crews or searchers that said that there is a lack of law enforcement, presence at the searches. So law enforcement, military, they aren't involved in this case that much. Now, his wife did admit that he was giving out information to Tom DeLonge, who was part of the To the Stars Academy. This was after a WikiLeaks email that was dropped that showed that he had some involvement with, giving out some information. Could the government be concerned? If he's giving out information to Tom DeLonge, maybe he's giving out information to adversary, people, and they need to take care of it. Right. And then you have the other people who are missing, and I'll go through it. Some of them are not that suspicious. Some of them are. I'm not going to lie. So there are 6 people, and this is from Star Platinum. It's actually more than 6, to be honest with you. There are 6 people connected to the same U.S. Defense Research Network, are either deceased or have been missing in under a year. This is all in the last year.
Hmm.
6. So you have Monica Riza, aerospace engineer, co-inventor of Monodeli, um, and she was working with NASA. I got that one here. So they're looking for her. She was last seen on June 22nd, 2025 at 9:10 a.m. She went hiking with 2 other persons and then became separated, and they have not found her.
Is she the one that waved to them?
I
Like
believe
waved?
so.
Yeah. And then was never seen again.
Was never seen again.
Yeah.
So, and no, I'm not suggesting. I think I actually said in the beginning that I seriously doubt that there's any connection here. But some people have said that, so I have to bring it up. But I do
personally
want to cover.
don't think there's any connection, but I do think this story is fascinating because of, you know, it's associated with the AFRL, which is the Air Force Research Laboratory, and all of these people were.
Yeah, all of them were. All
All
of them were. It is insane. Then we got, all right, so let's see what the next person, the last one is freaking crazy. So next one is Melissa Casillas, Los Alamos National Laboratory employee. She drives to her lab, tells her daughter that she forgot her badge. Family says it makes no sense, returns home. You know, let me read it. Let's talk about this. So there's no report. Police state report no breakthroughs in Melissa Casillas' case. Now this, she disappears 4 or 5 days after the first one. So 4 or 5 days later, and this is a video of her walking off, backpack. This is going to sound very familiar when we talk about how William disappeared, right? So 2 months, National Lab disappearances, more questions than answers. We have no updates in this case, and this was then. They still have none. Investigators are looking into every angle. Melissa was last seen by her family on June 26th, the morning at about 6:15 a.m. She drove her husband, Mark, to Los Alamos National Laboratory, where they both work. She told him she needed to finish work elsewhere and left at about 7:45 a.m. Melissa's daughter, Sierra, heard Melissa enter their home. Melissa told Sierra she forgot her security clearance badge from work and would work from home. At about 12:50, she dropped off Subway sandwich at Sierra's workplace, and that's the last time that her daughter sees her. She said she had forgotten her badge, and my dad had just forgotten his badge the day before. So she's coming up with an excuse. She figured one out. So this kind of tells me that whatever she planned was not planned far in advance if she's using the same.
It was a panicked planning.
Exactly. 100%. I'm like, that's exactly what it was. She kind of just laughed and didn't question it. I didn't know if that was how they got to work. Surveillance footage shows Melissa's last known whereabouts walking eastbound on New Mexico 518, roughly an hour after she dropped off lunch to her daughter. She wore a backpack, a turquoise shirt, jeans, tennis shoes, and a maroon hoodie tied around her waist. Family friends, she saw a blue Dodge truck following her, but later on, I think they've located it and they've actually have footage of the blue truck passing her and she doesn't get in. Sierra returned home from work, the front door locked and her mother's vehicle parked outside. She found her mother's keys, work phone, kitchen on the kitchen table, and her wallet, personal cell phone, purse, some dollar bills, a paycheck that Sierra gave her to deposit at the bank. So she left her everything that she was supposed to do, all found, and she factory reset her phone. So she didn't want people to know either where she had been recently or what she was searching.
Right. Right.
Well, 4 days after, I think it was, so this was on the 26th and the other one was the 22nd. So 4 days later.
Now, do they know for sure that that was her in the house that left all that stuff there? And it was Melissa for sure that factory reset her phone and, you know, that it was Melissa, her able body that did all of that? Or is that just how they found all of these items and just came to the conclusion that it had to have been her that left, you know, all these items, you know, like the check, the phones, and like all the items that were left behind?
I mean, the only thing about that is, in my opinion, so run that by me one more time, the beginning part.
Like, so in that article, you were saying that she what they found was like I think her keys, there was her daughter's check, Sarah's check or something that she gave her to deposit earlier. Also on the counter or something, the 2 phones that were, it said Melissa, or that it didn't say Melissa in the article. It said that were set back or were set to factory
Factory
reset. So
My
does it
assumption,
say that she did this herself, or that these items were just found and it is assumed that Melissa left these items and then pieced out?
so for me, I think that there's a possibility that they know if she did it or not, or a big assumption. And the reason being is that there's probably a time. And if that timestamp comes in that it was factory reset at this date and time, and it's before they see her walking off, then they probably assume it was her.
Okay.
But that's the only thing. If it comes back that it was factory reset after they see her walking off, that would be the interesting point. That's what you need to look for.
Right. That's what I'm interested in is the timetable of all this, you know?
I agree. Now, this one here sounds kind of like I don't want to say a love triangle, but that's kind of what it sounds like. But it involves Wright-Patterson employees also involved with the same program. So you have 3 persons that lost their lives. All 3 of them worked for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in an apparent double murder, and the guy took his own life in 3 different crime scenes. So the victims, so let's go on to say that the victims in this horrific case worked at the Ohio Air Base, according to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Lieutenant Jamie Gustistis, 25, worked at the 711 Human Performance Wing. This is part of the Air Force Research Laboratory. Jamie Picard, who is the suspect's wife, also worked for the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center. It goes on to say that Lieutenant Jamie West Milton police said was murdered around 2 a.m. on October 25th. When police said Jacob Pritchard drove to and broke into her Sugar Creek Township home. Jamie lived alone and knew Jacob Pritchard and his wife, Jamie Pritchard, through their work together at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Jacob Pritchard left the murder scene and was not seen again until 4:30 a.m. when he pulled into the parking lot of West Milton Municipal Building. Jacob Pritchard then took his life minutes later near the trunk of his vehicle, but before he did so, police stated that he opened the trunk so that officers would find what was inside the body of his wife. And he did this all on camera, knowing where the camera was at. And to me, it sounds like, I don't know, maybe perhaps he felt that the other lady convinced his wife to leave him. You know, this could be a domestic situation. This could be I don't want to say a love triangle, but maybe Miss Picard or Miss Pritchard and Jamie had some sort of romantic. I don't know, no idea. Maybe the guy just lost it. What are your thoughts?
On the Pritchard one, wasn't that the one where like on the Pritchard one, he is also the AFRL Sensors Directorate,
Yep.
but he's the one that killed his own wife, right?
Yep.
Okay. He kills a first lieutenant, but then in February, a guy shows up to his house, right?
No, that's a different one. That's a different one. Yeah, that's the next one.
All right, that's the one. I was confusing him with the guy that showed up to his house. That's why I was like, but wait, where does this third guy, like, why did he show up to his house? That's where I was confused. Okay. So yeah, I was confused on those two. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Pritchard got paranoid because he knows what can happen to, if this is all governmental and, stuff like that, people could panic and they could know stuff that is really messed up. And maybe he didn't want his wife to be privy to that or like be left with knowing that her husband had that information, or maybe this lieutenant that he took to was the one that divulged that information and then put him in this predicament to now he has to off his wife because now they all know, like, who knows? But like that one, I really don't know. Maybe it was the love triangle gone bad. Who knows?
That, or maybe he was abusive, and Jamie convinced his wife to leave him.
Yeah.
He found
He's like,
out.
I'll help you. Yeah, you never
Yeah,
know.
he found out and lost it, and so
But
there's a
I
good.
think
There's
like if there was like a whole affair and stuff like that, I think by now people, friends or cell phone information could have kind of came out and gave us some, like shot down some rumors or said, hey, look, this is we understand why you guys all think this is correlated or the connects here, but this is actually different. We have their text messages. We found, some very interesting pictures and, we pulled some DNA and this was actually a love triangle gone bad. And for the reasons that they're not saying this makes, I think, the audience or the public feel that there's more to it. So again, we're left in the dark and left to make up our own theories and hypotheses.
100%. But the one you mentioned is the one we're going to get into, and that's
Oops.
probably the one that.
Sorry.
No. This is the one that's really, really weird. Like, there's got to be some more investigating into this one, more so than all of them have to. But this one probably is the most interesting one of all. That's like, wait a minute, and then we have one more, and then I'll get into why I think there's a possibility of a family involvement. All right, so this one. In Lano, California, 29-year-old Lano man in custody charged with taking the life of Caltech astrophysicist Monday after carjacking his own relative and burglarizing a home. Los Angeles County Sheriff detectives say 67-year-old Carl Grillmer was found shot to death on his porch of his home in the rural Lano. Deputies arrested Freddie Snyder later in the day for the carjacking and soon linked him to Gilmer's shooting. The motive for the shooting has not been released. Detectives don't believe the two men knew each other. They don't believe they knew each other, but wait a minute. Snyder, the guy who took the life of the professor there, of the doctor, Snyder was arrested in December after trespassing on Gilmer's property while carrying a rifle. So this wasn't the first time that he attempted to take the life of the Caltech astrophysicist. This was the second time that he attempted to take his life. And they say that they don't know each other.
Come
I think
on.
this guy knows him.
Yeah. You don't go to the same place twice.
And the thing is, it gets different, right? So in December is when he was caught on his property carrying an unregistered rifle, lies about why he's there. And then February 5th, the charges are dismissed. 11 days after the charges are dismissed, why are the charges dismissed? But 11 days after the charges are dismissed, February 16th, the same man returns and shoots him dead on the porch.
Yeah. He had a job he had to finish. He was tasked with a job, and in the beginning, so how you were saying in the beginning that he was, what did he get in trouble for? Burglarizing. He was just up
being
to,
on his property with a rifle.
no, right before that, the person that shot him, like right before that, he got in trouble for like some mischief. What was that?
It just says that he was arrested in December after trespassing on his property while carrying a rifle.
Oh, I thought carjacking. Is that the same one? Freddie Snyder?
He carjacked a relative of his and then showed up to this guy's house and then popped him on the porch. Okay.
So was he trying to like show that he's just like a bad person? So that's what reflects his record for, the media and whatnot. And that's what he was instructed to do. Like, hey, make it look like you're a bad guy. So when they look into you, they're going to find some other stuff about you. So they don't connect him to being that it literally looked like a hit because he got released. Somebody did a favor, released him, and then he went and succeeded on what his original intention was.
It could be.
I don't know.
I just think that it sounds like a hit. It sounds like a hit, a hit for hire. That's what it sounds like.
Right.
And I wonder, could he be a government ops? Could the government want to have something to do with this? I don't know. Could it be mental illness, as Secubic Painter says? Possibly. It's possible, but then you have February 6th, then you have February 27th. So about 11 days later, William Neal McCaslin, he's former AFRL commander, control billions in aerospace research budgets tied to the same programs. He goes missing on February 27th. Now, could it be all involved? Maybe, perhaps, maybe the government's doing this. Maybe the government, like I said, we know for a fact that McCaslin was giving he was talking. What he was saying, whether it was true, whether it was false, I don't know. But he was talking to Tom DeLonge, and his wife admitted it. It was found in the WikiLeaks. So it wasn't something that was necessarily meant to be disclosed, but it was disclosed due to the emails being discovered. I don't know.
Right. And so he left without his glasses, which is, that's what's being discussed. He left without his glasses. He left with his shoes. He left with a gun. He left his phone behind too. Leaving your phone behind nowadays just isn't that big of a deal. I mean, everything is in another place. You can just pick up another phone somewhere else and reconnect it. The whole theory on him leaving without his glasses, and his wife and people that know him are like, oh, he wouldn't go anywhere without his glasses. Well, a lot of people that know me know the same thing. I can't see anything without my glasses. I wouldn't go anywhere without my glasses. So if you see me and I left my glasses here, everyone's gonna be like, no, but she left her glasses and she left her phone. Oh no. Well, guess what? I got like 3 other pair of this exact same glasses. So how do we know that he doesn't have? And when I was telling my husband about this, I'm like, do you not know that I have like 3 other pair of these? And he's like, oh, really? He wasn't even that aware that I had that. He's like, I thought you maybe had another pair. No, I have 3. So that means I have 4. And I could have left these behind and just taken my other pair. And everybody would have been like, but she left her glasses and phone behind. Well, I have a phone here. I have a phone here. I have a phone here. So really, I have other options, and I have other options, and I have a shit ton of shoes. So does it really matter that I left my phone, took a special kind of pair of shoes and didn't have my glasses? To me, no, it doesn't matter. That's not the
who would know more information about the other, you or your husband?
Say that again. What do you mean?
Who would know more information about the other? Would you know
I
more
would know more about him than he knows about me.
Okay. So I would think that she would know a lot more about him, and know whether or not he had other glasses.
He's a government worker. He's a government worker that has one of the highest security clearances. I'm almost positive, maybe somebody in your chat can kind of confirm this. When you're in that position, your wife is not privy to a lot of things. But yeah, should she know if he has other glasses? Yeah. But
he's also been retired for a few years.
He
made the point that
he has retired. He has retired, but he still keeps that very high clearance. So he can still interact. He can still show up and say, hey, this, and that. But it doesn't mean that he's an active, general. He's not in active duty. He's not doing anything. He can sit back on the couch and pull up, Crime Scene Collective and the DT show and watch us tonight and chill out. But if he wants to jump in tomorrow and pull up some files, he's got clearance to go on to whatever he wants and look at whatever he wants. If he wants to go on a location here or there, he can do it because he's got some special badge. And I guarantee you, he's not going to say, I forgot it at home because my dad did. He's not going to post stuff like that because he's up there. And I'm sure you're going to mention the X account, right?
Well, yeah, that was the other one I was going to bring up. There was an X account that was possibly linked to Mr. McCaslin. I forgot to bring that one up, actually. And it brought up John Rossi, who was a former United States general officer. And he was actually given command of the United States Army Space and Missile Defense Command. And then he was given another job, and then he supposedly committed. He took his own life, supposedly. And there's an account that has been linked possibly to Mr. McCaslin, who hasn't put anything up since the date of his disappearance. Yeah. And
pretty wild.
Yeah, supposedly in this account, it talks about Rossi, but I haven't found it. I looked for it. I don't know if it was deleted, if it was removed. If it was removed, then that's even more strange. But who removed it and how did they remove it? That's the part that I would be interested in. But here's the thing, and I'll get into what just kind of really just doesn't sit with me. All right. So Miss McCaslin leaves for medical appointment and returns home within an hour, and he's gone. Right. The biggest clue for me is how long after she returned home did she call her husband? Because he's gone, stuff is there, glasses are there, like, his phone is, if she walked in and he doesn't see him, like, is she going to say, oh, I saw his phone, so I knew right away? Or did she walk in and say, hey, are you here? Honey, are you home? Calls, and then the phone rings. Hey, the phone is still here.
Yeah.
Right. Because if that call comes in 20, 30, 40 minutes after she's arrived home, that's a big red flag for me. That is a huge red flag if she calls 20, 30, 40 minutes. But what bothers me about this is that she leaves, she comes back, she doesn't know what he was wearing. And when she gives the items that they were wearing to the officers, she describes that he had some hiking boots and a green long sleeve button up shirt that had been missing. Well, she gave them information that was found at their Pagosa Springs residence, which hasn't been visited for some time. And so now they don't know. They have no idea. I mean, to me, I'll be honest with you, it sounds like they caught this guy in the shower, not wearing any of his wearable devices, not wearing his glasses, you would assume, I'm going to assume that they spoke to the repairman who was there at 10, and that they spoke with Miss McCaslin, and they had an idea of what he was wearing before he left. And if they don't know what he was wearing, then he must have either changed or left without clothes. They haven't found a pair of boots or shoes that are missing.
What about ring door camera? Anything like that?
Nothing. There is no camera, and they have cameras on either end of the street that capture both ends of the street.
Okay, so we have that also, and plus, but the residence isn't telling us if they themselves own a camera or utilize a camera. We just don't know if that's a yes or no answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I promise you, the law enforcement knows, and
they said that there is no sign of him or anybody or him leaving that area, and they have cameras on both ends. They have no idea how he left or what direction of travel he left.
Okay. So what, like with these 6 people that you mentioned, what is one thing that ties them all together?
Their profession, where they work.
And they are all involved with hidden technology of the world.
That's true.
And that Pritchard guy, the Jacob Pritchard guy, so the difference with him, and I'll just kind of explain it the best way that I understood it when I was researching it. So, right, like we were saying, or you were saying that his situation is kind of unique because it looks like a love triangle, maybe kind of went sour, and it's just, unknown there. But then at the same time, I was saying, well, if it was kind of that, then hopefully we would hope that law enforcement would kind of speak to that and say, hey guys, let's kind of back away from all these, governmental theories. This was just a sad situation because, if there was a girlfriend involved, then she must have a family too that misses her. So, or like not the wife, but the other general, like there's 3 families, right? You know what I mean? So why isn't the wife's extended family speaking? Why isn't this other lieutenant's family speaking? Something is being hushed, and it's not pointing into the direction of, a love triangle gone bad. I mean, they could really shut us down with that and take them out of the equation and give us less to talk about, right? But they're not. Yeah. So what I will say is what he worked on is the magnetic pole shift. So are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with the conspiracy that the thought that the poles will shift. Yeah.
Okay. So from
what you're referring to.
Right. So this is something, and I'm not pushing any conspiracy theories. I'm just talking about what I have learned while I was researching these people today. So he was working on the magnetic pole shift. This is something that happens every 15 to 20,000 years. So and he was trying to expose it and tell, and put it together and put all the technology of it together. This is, got to think of like dinosaurs and like what wiped them out and what wiped, the other, all the worlds out before us and the, Mayans or whatnot. Just think of this is just
The story of the flood is very
right.
consistent.
Right. So he was working on what was going to be the next thing to wipe, us out. And basically the government wants nobody to expose that, because what if we're very close to that? It's basically hidden technology. And so why is that important to us? Because that could cause a worldwide a catastrophe for us, people here in the world. And because again, it's the hidden technology. So people can cause chaos with all this information coming out. Like, hey guys, we're getting very close to that. And he was ready to expose it, which could cause mass, mass hysteria and all of that. Or we can just buy more time and be like, just calm down, everybody. And, and they were trying to make people believe that this technology and everything that he's finding is, that it's like reverse technology from, I see a lot of people in your chat are mentioning aliens, and that all of this technology that he's finding is pulled from reverse technology from like alien crash sites and stuff like that. But what I understand is he was trying to prove that it was reverse technology from just from true
Right.
like us people and just regular events and minerals and what the earth is giving us, and not from some UFO crash sites that we don't know if really exist or not. And so that could have been the reason why he was erased from us.
Right. There's a good possibility of that. And you make good solid points there. Just to kind of add on to it. So he had actually, supposedly there was something that he had told Tom DeLonge, that he had not seen any ETs, not any ET crafts, but what he had seen was advanced ancient human technology. Now, as you mentioned, is it possible that every 26,000 years the poles shift? Does that create some sort of, environmental, threshold on the planet where there's tsunamis that cover the world in water? Possibly. I mean, maybe that's what happened before. I've said this before. I've said, hey, if we were to look at fossils, right? The oldest fossil is 249 million years old. Mm-hmm. And so that's about 250,000 years. That is less than 7% of the known, of what we suspect the history of the earth to be, at 4 billion years. Mm-hmm. Human beings have been on the planet for a blink of an eye compared to that. There's no telling what could have happened in the time before, the dinosaurs. Maybe perhaps the dinosaurs were an experiment that went crazy, and you had oversized lizards rule the world for millions of years. Perhaps there was something had happened afterwards, more recently, and that kind of, there's the Younger Dryas era, and what happened then was that supposedly, and you can go look at this, the world froze like right away. Think of that movie where 2012, where the world just kind of freezes all at once. Mm-hmm. In fact, in Siberia, in the permafrost, there are animals that have been frozen, fur and everything, and there's still green plants in their mouth. So, and they said that some of these mammoths and things would have had to have been frozen in seconds. And so, for them to have green plants in their mouth and be frozen in seconds tells us that something happened fairly quick,
like that.
And that it was like a slush because of the way they got captured and things of that nature. So 100%. I mean, did something happen at that point? I mean, you look at the Egyptian pyramids, the older ones are in better shape. The interior of them look cleaner. There are no hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics didn't happen until later. The pyramids became to get smaller, and they became less technologically advanced. That's not typically what happens with technology. Things usually typically get better. So unless they were founded, in which a lot of people speculated that the pyramids and things of that nature were founded by the Egyptians and taken over and utilized for other means, there's a lot of conversation for that. And there was another guy who is also a whistleblower. His name is Lou Elizondo. He was former CIA, and he was also part of Arrow and TIP, I believe, which is like Advanced aerospace, whatever, right? And he came out. He also talked to Tom DeLonge, and he mentioned something about advanced technology and maybe perhaps it being discovered. And one of the things that he mentioned, I think it was in the podcast called Toes. I think it's the Theory of Everything podcast or something like that.
Mhm.
And in that podcast, he mentions that if you had a technology and you wanted to preserve it for future generations, or maybe perhaps, a history of things, where could you do it? Where could you put it? If you put it in, on the ground, you can put it in the water, whatever. It's not going to last here on Earth. Oxidization is going to rust things and everything decomposes. But you put it in a vacuum with no oxygen, no air, maybe on the other side of the moon, then you can preserve some technology for an extended period of time. And I always thought that statement was interesting, you know, and not to mention, and somebody mentions it here, is you had Barack Obama recently say that aliens are real, and then Trump immediately afterwards say that he released information that he shouldn't have, and that he's going to release the alien stuff. And then now the government has secured alien.gov
I was
and
just gonna say
aliens.gov.
that. I was literally waiting for you to finish, and I was gonna say, and they just registered that yesterday.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty versed in the in the UFO and conspiracy community. That's honestly, guys, where this channel started. We were starting with aliens and things of that nature. But
Yeah, I
with all
mean,
that said,
I'm so
is
flattered that you had Ashton Forbes on, honestly. Like, I really
yeah,
am. Get him on again and have me on at the same time. I would be so honored.
I got to reach. So here's the thing I'm glad you bring up Ashton Forbes, because his biggest, thing is that the Malaysian
Yeah,
plane that went down.
massive. It was a
Do you, do
portal.
you know do you know who it was on that plane though?
Yeah,
Regardless if you think that was real or not, but who was on the plane? You know who it was?
Chinese nationalists. Like, there was
Scientists that
scientists.
were
Yeah,
working on propulsion.
yes. Mm-hmm.
All of them.
Yeah.
The entire crew, like, I'm assuming they all had a press conference or something, but I mean, it's just kind of weird that these Chinese propulsion scientists all just disappear at the same time.
Like that.
Yep. Can't find the plane, can't do anything. Now, I don't know of the whole three orbs thing.
Portals.
Yeah, I don't know if
That's
that's it.
spinny things, and they
Yeah.
took it to another dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that is real, but if I was the government and I found out that my adversaries had their top scientist on a plane, and I may want to make that plane disappear if they're my adversary.
And then if I told you that when they took that plane and they threw it into a different portal and they took those scientists, those Chinese scientists, and they sucked all the information out of their brains, would you think that I'm fucking crazy? Probably, right?
I mean, if they have the possibility of creating a portal to snatch them out of the sky, then they probably got the technology to do a lot of things.
Everybody that was like, hey, wait, I might go and follow her, they're all like, reverse, Uno reverse, they're backing out.
No.
That's not what I'm really not a conspiracy theorist. I just happen to know a lot about all this stuff.
Well, I'll give you one better though.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily, I think, that the portals took that plane, but kind of like United 93, I don't really believe that plane went down on its own. Just so happened to be very close to a Air Force base that we're talking about that had gotten the green light to shoot down that plane. Did you know that?
Yeah, but I don't think that's what happened.
Oh, I think they shot it down. I went out there and I was like, I looked at the site on where the plane went down. I was like, this plane turned around over here in front and above huge cities, was heading towards the direction of huge cities, was coming from the direction of huge cities. And it just so happened to land on this farm that the government now is paid off everybody for the rest of their lives. Give them a pretty good incentive to say that it went down that way, didn't it?
Right.
And so I just, and then not to mention that they would have had to have turned so hard that the engine would have had to have fallen off the plane before it hit the ground and landed straight down for it to have created that huge hole. And nothing was recovered, not a bone, not blood, nothing.
Nothing.
Why not? Because are they afraid that it's going to show evidence of a missile and not of an impact? Is that what they're afraid of? Like, it's just.
But that's the other plane, not the
This
Malaysia.
is 93. This is the one that went down in Pennsylvania, the one that got shot down. I'm not talking about the towers.
Right.
Yeah, I'm talking about the plane that, in my opinion, our government shot down. In fact, I believe it was President Bush said that in his memoir that he thought for the longest time that we shot it down because he gave the green light to do so.
Well, maybe we just haven't had time to look into that one yet. We're still trying to get all the information on Malaysia. One thing at a time. Let's slow down, or we're not going to have anything to talk about in a year. Hey.
True story. True story. Well, do you want anything to add before we call it a show? We've gotten kind of long.
No, I don't think so. Just, I really do think that Malaysia was taken down by portals, and I talked to government officials. There's BBR and BAR, which is burn before reading and burn after reading. And the person I spoke to literally has that information. And this guy was an older gentleman that has been through the reins of it. And he told me all about the BBR, BAR, and Malaysia was a BBR, same as a pandemic that I think we all know about. That was a BBR as well. So I just want to say that this is out of somebody else's mouth that I looked up all of his credentials, and he wasn't, I literally met with him. I have pictures of him and I standing together. I have his business card, everything. We spent a lot of time together. So I know he wasn't just blowing, anything up anywhere. So, just had to say that because I really do believe that. But other than that, thank you for having me on. And I don't know. I mean, the Jimmy Gracie case yesterday in Barcelona, Spain, a student that was missing, 20 years old. They did recover him in the waters. I guess he fell off of the cliffs and
there's footage of him falling off the dock.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. But what I do want to say is I think it's very, what is fortunate is that his family got a very swift recovery and answers, and they have their son back. Obviously not the way they would have hoped, but at least it's not a long drawn out situation where this is where theories and, rumors start to build. And good, luckily for them, they don't have to deal with that negativity, and they could just close it down and go home and put their son to rest.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was a sad case. I'm glad they got some answers for the family. I hope they get some answers for all these cases that we talked about tonight. I know it was a little long in the tooth, and I want to thank everybody that stuck with us. I do want to tell you one thing. I do have a source that may still, maybe was, I'm not going to say because I don't want to, disclose anything. But interesting thing. This person was a high-ranking officer or enlisted person at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base at some time that I've been talking to. And they kind of stopped talking when I brought up the 6 people that are missing. So take that for what it is. I'm hoping to get back in touch with them soon, though. This
is where we all say that we are not suicidal. We're not trying to take our lives. Like, I don't know, like, we're good.
Yes, we are good. I had a procedure, but I'm still good.
Oh, I know. I feel better. And hey, reach out to Ashton, try to get him on. I mean, I would love that.
I'm gonna try again. I'll email him again, or I think I actually got a hold of him on X the first time. I'll see if he'll join me again. He's gotten kind of big since the last time, so
he really has. Maybe he'll want to talk about some theories, and who knows? I don't know, but it'd be interesting to get him on and talk, or I mean, maybe ask him to go on his show. I don't know, like say, hey, let's talk again. We've got some other people that want to go on the panel and discuss some, because he does bring up Nancy on his show. I watch him, or I try to catch him whenever he's on, usually 2 to 3 days a week, and he still does bring up Nancy, or when he has guests on. They're kind of frustrated with that Nancy's still getting the coverage and that Neil is not, and they do bring that up. So who knows?
Yes. Oh, on Sunday, thank you for reminding me. I'm going to be back on Sunday night with Jennifer Coffindaffer. We're going to have a panel about the Nancy Guthrie case. So that'll be the next time I'm probably on. I'll probably take tomorrow off unless something breaks. If something breaks, then I'll be back on. You guys have a great night. Go follow Crime Scene Collective on TikTok and on YouTube. Follow the DT Show on YouTube and on TikTok and on X. Also, Crime Scene Collective is on X as well. And also, remember, I got a challenge out there. I have a hidden Pokemon channel, and it has nothing to do with the Drunk Turkey Show. There's no, just kind of look up maybe Pokemon Ripper, look up Pokemon cards, Pokemon Ripper, and it's not gonna be easy. If you're just looking for my face, you're not gonna find me. But
ooh, he's dropping nuggets. He's dropping little bits of cheese all over.
I'm
Get
dropping
that
it.
prize. Get that bag, people. Get it.
I'm gonna come up with a little game, so that way if you find it and you bring it up, I'll get you something.
It's gonna be Dan Go instead of Pokemon Go.
No, there's nothing Daniel. There's nothing Drunk Turkey. There's no turkey Pokemon. There's nothing. There is absolutely nothing that ties that channel with mine. So I hope you guys find it, because I only got like 28 subscribers and I need to get that going.
I need the subscribers too. Go on my channel and hit subscribe. I really need them too.
Yes. See you guys later. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Wait.
Oh,
Okay, Beach 714 coming in with the newest membership. Thank you guys. Check out the Discord link, or the link right now. Once I end this, I'm going to put the Discord link for our members to go join the chat. See you guys next time. Peace out.